everyone, and welcome to BizClik Media Group Roundtables. This is our second instalment of the series, and in this episode, we discuss women in business as a whole topic and the importance of gender equality in leadership positions. So for some context before today's discussion, back in March during Women's History Month, BizClik Media celebrated 300 women across our major industry magazines. So we had 100 in supply chain, 100 in fintech, and 100 in technology. It was a major success, and it actually created a lot of meaningful and eye-opening discussions regarding women in leadership positions. So it was really great to empower females and give them that confidence, literally across the globe. So before we begin, and for those who don't know a little bit about BizClik Media Group, we're actually a global digital media. We specialize in being the corporate storyteller for the world's leading organizations. We're headquartered in Norwich, and we have a growing workforce with an office in London and remote working employees across the globe. We get to work with some really amazing companies and people, which brings me to introduce our guest for today's roundtable. So firstly, I would like to introduce my co-worker, Stacy Norman. She is the Chief Operating Officer here at BizClik Media Group. We are also joined by Sanchari Sen-Ray. She is the co-founder and CEO at Education Consultants Canada. We also have Amnah Ajmal. She is the Group Executive Marketing Development at Mastercard. And we also have Celeste Revelli, the Director of Financial Planning at eMoney Advisor. So I really can't wait to speak to these ladies today about our topic. We've got some great questions. So firstly, thank you all for joining us, of course. I hope that this will be an important and open discussion today. I'd like to kind of kick off with why it is important that we discuss this topic and why we should care so much. So just for a statistic, actually in 2019, the proportion of women in senior management roles globally grew to 29%. So that's the highest number ever recorded, which is insane. Obviously, it's not a very big number. So as we can see, there is an improvement, but today I'd like for us to kind of question, is it enough? And what can we do to bring confidence to encourage women to go for these leadership positions and feel like they can, and they're not, at a disadvantage at all. So I'd like to kind of go around the table, starting with Stacy. Could you kind of tell me a little bit about your career journey and what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to lie. I've had to work incredibly hard to get to where I am today. I've undertaken a lot of training and personal development, whether that's my degree, my bachelor's degree, or my Harvard diplomas. I've always taken every day as kind of a learning experience. And some of the best skills I've learned in my career have been from the leaders I've worked with. So, for example, Glenn White, he showed me that business isn't always just about money. It's about growing a brand, building a relationship, teaching and encouraging the team you work with, and knowing that whatever you do any day, you're going to be helping someone. It might not be a life-saving change, but it helps someone within a business better themselves or help their business grow. I think for myself, my biggest turning point was becoming a mum. That's when I kind of knew that I had to take a massive step up to be able to provide my children with a really great life. And also to instill into them what a career is and how to be ambitious and how proud it is to have a career, especially for my 12-year-old daughter who feels that having 50,000 followers on TikTok is a career. So massively important, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. Sanchari, can you go next, please?
Sure. I think it just not you are basically advocating the voice of other women who cannot be who are looking up and who are looking for that option or that push where okay, I if she can do it, I can do it too. And so personally, after I have to let you know that I not only as a woman entrepreneur, as an immigrant woman entrepreneur here in Canada, it was a lot of challenge initially. So and now when you feel it's rewarded when you hear other immigrant women who are coming from different parts of the world reaching out to you and saying that, you are kind of empower us. So if you can do it, we can do it too. So I think that's the most rewarding of all this journey, all this hardship, and all of it, I would say.
Absolutely, thank you. And Amnah, can you just tell us a little bit about your career journey, please?
Sure. So I have lived in 11 countries. Have worked for 38 bosses. None of my bosses lasted for more than 6 months. And I would say that I do think it's a two-way street. I know when I was 28, my mom told me that after that, I can never get married. I would never have kids because I'm not even dating. And I was living in Poland. I don't speak the language. I mean, I was working 18 hours a day. You really can't have the cookie in the plate and in the stomach. So I agree with Stacy when she said that she worked incredibly hard. There was a point in my time, I don't advise a lot of people to do that, but I think I had burned a lot of bridges to be where I was, because I was not born in a family where I had the birthright to work. So I literally had burnt relationships with almost my entire family in order to have a career, in order to work internationally. So from that perspective, I really had to make it work. When you have nothing to lose, you really work hard. It was a dream that I had since I was 18 years old. So perseverance, courage, and I think for people probably shifting a country is a big thing. And for me as a single woman living in 8 countries that I lived as a single person, countries like Cairo, which were not that easy for a single woman, expat woman, I don't speak Arabic, to live in, or even Poland or Hungary, I would say Singapore, Malaysia, London. It has been a roller coaster ride, but it's something that I wanted, and it's something that I gave my 1000% to it. There was no looking back. There was no turning back. I prioritized everything that I possibly could. I was determined. There were many, many showstoppers. I had health problems in one country. I landed up in another and realized that language is really a very big barrier, because I'm the only one in the management team who doesn't speak. Everybody has to translate for me. I'm lining up as a 28-year-old, being a boss of 40 years old. At that time, I was like thinking, why do people even work when they're 40? Because that's how you think when you're 28 years old. But I think I have a lot of gratitude for the company that I worked for, who had so much of faith in me. There are things that I couldn't believe that I would do, and my bosses believed that I could do it. That played a major role in me getting the confidence to do that. So yeah, it was about perseverance, courage, and risk-taking. And we have to, and I say that to a lot of young women who want to have international career and want to have mobility, want to experience different cultures. It is about give and take. You just can't have everything that you would have by having a career at one place in one company in your comfort zone, and then also wanting to grow internationally and wanting to have an experience of being across the world.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to touch on that point a little bit later as well, about you kind of living across the globe and how the difference between gender equality across literally every continent. So and Celeste, finally, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey?
So I chose a career in financial planning because of the impact that a lack of financial education and resources had on my own mom, who was a single mom. She was an immigrant mom. She worked really hard to support her children and helping them succeed. So I really want to do what I can to support people like her. And so I'm really lucky to work for a company as well that supports women, especially working moms, especially managers who really believed in me and supported me, challenged me, gave me opportunities, and continue to give me opportunities. And that's really just made such a difference in where I am today and the ability to continue to grow and learn. So.
Amazing, thank you so much. It's pretty fascinating. I love hearing everyone's stories about some people even have dreams of when they're children, what they want to do, and I just love hearing people kind of succeed in that. So kicking off with the questions, I'd love to kind of know if there were any obstacles that you ladies faced in your respective industries. Obviously we have a kind of bit of a spread here in terms of businesses and what everyone does. So we have a few people in the financial industry. So I'm curious to know, I wonder if Celeste and Amnah, you have kind of similar experiences working in the finance industry. So Celeste, I wonder if you could tell some obstacles you faced working, and I guess it doesn't have to relate to your current industry, but maybe the way you got into the finance world. So if you could just kind of expand on that for me.
Yes, so I actually started my career as a financial advisor, and the financial services industry is still very much male dominated. It's getting better. We're trending in the right direction. But as a young female advisor, I really was trying to learn the industry, but also trying to battle the perception that a young woman has when it comes to managing money. And that really impacted my confidence in myself and really questioned my ability to succeed. So I had to work really hard, get certifications, do extra work and work within communities and network to really help with my career in financial planning. And then I had an opportunity to join the fintech firm that I'm currently with, which is eMoney Advisor. And it really opened my eyes to being able to see how technology, its purpose is to enable a broad set of people, right, from all different communities. So I think that this idea of inclusiveness and working in fintech has, really helped me gain that confidence that I can support various people, especially women, in financial services, and it's grown my confidence as well.
Absolutely. And Amnah, do you have anything to kind of add on to that as well?
I would say I've been fortunate to work for companies like Citibank, Standard Chartered, Mastercard, who have always paid a lot of attention to gender diversity and inclusion. And I never ever felt that I was a woman in financial services or even now in technology. I think you have to be aware that this is the world that we live in. So I have few incidences here and there, like I was in a customer meeting and there were 4 men from my team in that meeting. And the customer just assumed that I'm one of the junior most people in the room and kept on referring to one of the men in my room who worked for me actually, and just completely ignored me as if I didn't exist in that room. And I think the poor guy in my team had to interrupt politely and say, actually, she is the one who heads this division and, she's the decision maker here. And I could see that he was kind of taken back because he thought I was some junior person in the room and he doesn't need to address me. So I think those kind of incidents happen here and there. And it's just you need to be aware that that's the world that we live in. We have a long way to go ahead. So I don't feel in the industry I ever faced such a thing, but I faced it very early before I joined any industry because I don't come from a family where I was allowed to work. So fighting that battle at the age of 18, because my mom was a mom at the age of 16, I had a 33-year-old grandma. So it was a very different mindset for a woman to say she wants to work and have a financial services industry career and live in different countries. That was kind of unheard of. So I think that was more of a struggle. But once I landed up with a great company, my career started with Citigroup internationally. I don't think so I ever felt that, other than few incidences here and there.
I can add, if I may.
Absolutely.
From an entrepreneur perspective, where, and especially in the industry that when I started off, where it was men, and so when you go into a discussion or pitching an idea or negotiating, so it's a business with me and my spouse. So it's, as Amnah said, they would keep looking at my spouse and giving directions and giving, and then he had to interfere, saying, "Oh, she's the decision maker here. I'm not the one. So I think you have to pitch the idea to her." So absolutely, it's not only in a corporate industry. Whenever you go out, and it's more difficult again because you start. I've started in this country getting an idea and working on that idea, especially a woman going out and pitching that idea. It becomes really difficult for the person, and when you are on a table with all men taking decisions, it becomes really difficult to convince them and get the word across and let them know that you mean business here. So yes, there had been, it's a transition. I would say it's much better than what I started off 10 years ago versus right now, because I see a lot of women. So when I go and speak or pitch an idea, I see a lot of women too, and the connection becomes way different than what you would have done 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of see in like I read out earlier, it's growing. Unfortunately, the numbers are still quite small, but the improvements are happening. So finally, Stacey, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about any obstacles you faced.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started my career many moons ago, I worked within the construction industry. I mean, I'm one of those people that really likes obstacles, but some of the obstacles that I kind of came across were actually quite difficult. I remember being a super ambitious 19-year-old who was abruptly told that women will never do well in this industry, and that women who compete like men are considered unfeminine, and women who emphasize family are considered uncommitted. That kind of stuck with me for quite a while, actually. I've only ever worked in 4 companies, 3 being construction and 3 being very male dominant. I always took this as more of a challenge rather than a barrier, because for me, this was an opportunity to stand out and create a long-lasting impression. BizClik has really kind of only ever been the company who ever really felt comfortable to be myself. Our CEO has only ever shown me respect and has only ever treated me as nothing less than his COO. I just promoted myself there.
One day. So yes, I think it's really important. I think it's going off the back of what Stacey said, being told that, I can't even imagine your response or how many years that's kind of been playing in your head. And I think it's amazing that we can now kind of celebrate the fact it's improving, and hopefully it is getting better. Like you said, Sanchari, 10 years ago, it must have been so different. I can't even imagine. And I kind of want to touch on the importance of how good it is that it is improving, and that females are being seen to be in more leadership positions. So I kind of want to put the question out there for anyone to kind of pick up on. How important is it that there is a seat at the table for women in these management and leadership positions? So whoever would like to fire away, feel free.
Again, I think I'm going to contribute from the point of view of my small business that I work. And because the differences, because the way I have felt over the years, when also what I thought is I will try to implement diversity in terms of, I have a woman team. All my team members, we work 10 people, 9 of them are women. And the decision makers are women. And they are not only women, they are immigrant women who are international graduates who have come here to study. And we have absorbed them as interns and then eventually work for us. So I feel to get that out there, you have to start, or you have to make an example. So this woman who's just out of school and in a different country, when you give that opportunity of getting them start off, and if they're doing good, giving them the position, giving them the empowerment, giving them the leadership, and they flourish, and then, and that's kind of advocates for other girls, other women, saying, okay, if she can do it, coming from a whole different country, I can do it too. So in my own small way, this is I feel droplets can make oceans. So maybe I'll try to set an example this way. And I feel very proud of the fact when I go out and say, okay, I have 90% of my team members are women, and they are, we just promoted somebody from a team lead position to marketing head, because we have been seeing how she's working, and from a different country. And I have a team where we have employees from Indonesia, from Vietnam, from Sri Lanka, from India, from Nigeria. So this is a team that I work with, and 90% of them are women. So I think, yes, giving them the empowerment, giving them the opportunity, giving them the leadership skills, and you back off and let them take the reins. And that's definitely works.
Anybody else like to jump in and kind of go off the back of that at all?
Just want to chime in that, having role models, to the point made earlier, is so important to have and to look up to and to aspire to, and especially for women who are starting off in their careers. So at eMoney, half of our executive leadership team are actually women. And that's been so great for employees across all the various departments of eMoney to see that they have a career path, and really having these structured career paths to help women advance their careers, from the start. These intentional conversations around career growth and development, no matter where they are in their career, is so important, just to have that support system and feel like you have people behind you that really want you to succeed and alongside you that want you to succeed. And it's great that you shared your story about having an all women team. So actually, with a few new hires that are starting over the next month, one of our sub teams is going to be all women. And so I'm super excited to start some new initiatives and really just help other women in our company see that, we could start something new and grow something. So it's really exciting.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I massively think it's important too. And it's quite sad that we're still having to kind of have this discussion, isn't it, as women in leadership. I mean, if we can raise children and hold down a full-time job and study to better our career, we're already ahead of the game, aren't we? So, it's something that's massively important, especially when you've got younger children. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, so to instill in her, that I go to work every day and I try my hardest and I try to motivate her as much as possible, that it's really important to have a career, to stand on your own 2 feet and not to have to rely on anybody else to get you to where you need to be.
True.
And Amnah, did you have anything else to add to that?
I think Stacy, Sanchari, and Celeste have summarized it beautifully well. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter and twin boys, 18-month-olds. I have 3 kids under the age of almost 3. I would say that I just hope that when I tell my daughter when she grows up, let's say when she's 15, 17, that I was participating in such conversations, she finds it odd. That what was I talking about?
Yes.
That would be my dream, that you won't be able to understand what am I talking about. Exactly the way I think those kids would never understand that we had landlines and we used to listen music on cassette. That's just so alien to them, right? I just hope this conversation, when I tell her that I was participating in these kind of conversations, she would find it odd. Why?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And kind of as a final question, and something that I guess might seem odd to ask, so I guess kind of running off the back of that, what does true gender diversity mean in a workforce? I'm kind of interested in how obviously your different companies approach gender diversity, and obviously it's great to hear that everyone's excited about having female heavy teams. I think that's really amazing. So if I could just kick off with Stacy, what does gender diversity mean, and kind of how important is it that it exists in any workplace?
Yeah, it's really important. I think just diversity in general is important, not just obviously gender diversity. I mean, a wider talent pool and a different set of perspective is massively important. Female leaders, enhanced collaboration across teams and businesses. Diversity as a whole improves staff retention, improves recruitment and reputation, and importantly, provides greater profitability and success. And that is actually factual. So, I mean, Emily, you've seen the diversity increase across BizClik over the last, I would say, 2 years. But the collaboration across the teams is massively improved. Just the whole culture within BizClik, it's a complete 360 to where we were 3 years ago when it wasn't a diverse business. So for us as a team, to have people from different backgrounds and ages and genders, it's actually a really great place to work now. So I would encourage anyone who doesn't have that diversity within the workforce to get on board.
Sure, I can add to that. Again, coming back, if the kind of business I am in, it's more of exporting educational services to different parts of the world. So we are an education consultant. So what we have done is, yes, you cannot have your offices every part of the world. So what we have done is you kind of think globally, but act locally. So that's also a part of diversity. Right now, we have offices in Philippines, in Vietnam, in India, And so we have local representatives, women local representatives there who are doing business for us. So like right now, everything is about technology and it's online. So we speak to them, we give them their goals, and they work in different time zones. And that's a way we have diversified our team. Not only the fact that in Canada, diversity, inclusion, equity is a major part of any kind of business, and they are taking it very, very seriously and um, uh, implementing in all platforms. So in a small business like ours, as I said, we have people from different countries. Additionally, this is how we have expanded our diversity to different countries where we cannot have offices, where we are recruiting locals who speaks the language and who can connect and who can get their culture in Canada without being in Canada. So I would say that would be diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody else wanted to touch on that, I think a great point, obviously Amnah was talking about this earlier, is globally the difference in kind of this diversity discussion. I think that's a really, really fascinating topic, and it kind of does blur into what we're talking about today. So I don't know if Amnah, you wanted to discuss anything of that further, or kind of share your feelings on the importance in diversity.
I think I agree with everything that's been said. I do think that companies are now doing a very different job than even it was 3 years back. I won't go back even 5 or 7 or 10 years. I just think the pace at which the agenda is gaining importance, and it's becoming in every way of doing things. It's not just recruitment, it's looking at your pipeline, it's looking at promotions, it's looking at internal job postings, talent development. It's just a lot of things. That's great. I would just like to add maybe a slightly different point of view. I mentor a lot of women across the world. I mean, in Malaysia, I was managing 3,000 people across the consumer bank. And in my direct management team and 2 levels down, I had 60% women. I'm still in touch with a lot of them, including some of my team members in Hungary and Poland. I think one consistent theme that I have seen, and I'm not generalizing here, I'm just talking based on my experience, is that whenever I have offered a promotion in my entire career to a man, I have never had a response like, maybe I'm not ready, I don't know it all. But 90% of the time I have offered a promotion to a woman, including myself. When my boss, who was a woman, offered me a promotion, I was 1 year in the job, I told her I'm not ready. That is when I was 28 years old. So I just think that there are differences. And that's why when I mentor these women, I tell them, I said, which job do you want? Go ask for that job. But how can I do that? Of course you can do that. You need to frame the conversation. These are the 5 things that this job requires. 3 I'm good at. 2 maybe I'm not good at, but I'm going to learn, because look, here's my past where I did not know these things, but I learned it. So the women at times would call me and they're like, oh, I saw you in this meeting and I wanted you to be a mentor. I'm like, I didn't notice you in that meeting. And she's like, why? I said, I don't think you said anything. And she's like, but I don't say anything in most of the meetings. I'm like, why? Oh, because I think at times about making a point, but then when I make a point, somebody already has made it. And I'm like, my dear friend, men don't think like that. You know, they just talk. So why are you overthinking it? If people, I said, listen, if I didn't realize that you were there in the meeting, many other people also did not, right? So I said, if a senior stakeholder doesn't even notice your presence in the meeting, how would your career grow? You may be doing a fabulous job at your desk, but nobody knows you. So there are differences in the way we operate. At least that's what I have seen. And I think that needs to change. That's why when I mentor a lot of young women, I tell them that I think these are the differences that you need to be aware of. Talk in the meetings. It does not matter if somebody has already said your point. Just don't overthink about it. You have a point, you have an opinion, make it. Say it in a respectful way, but just say it, you know. Somebody's offering you a promotion, go grab it, you know, figure it out later how you're going to do it. It doesn't matter. When I was pregnant, the second, and in my 2 pregnancies, I've changed countries and I've changed jobs. And I think the first time I was stupid because it was my first time being pregnant. I moved to the US, a country where I don't know anybody. And I stayed full pregnancy by myself in 7 different accommodations. In a very big role, leading Mastercard's largest region in North America. But I think now when somebody contacted me, and second time I was expecting twins, and I again changed jobs when I was 4 months pregnant and 6 months pregnant, I again changed countries. So somebody contacted me because she was having a third child. She was pregnant the third time. And she said to me, she was in Belgium, and she said to me, I was in a meeting and I forgot something. And a colleague of mine said, oh, that's because you're expecting. And she's like, I felt very bad. I felt terrible. I'm like, but it's a beautiful thing. And she's like, why do you think that? I said, I joked with my boss because when it was the budget cycle, I was 8 months pregnant. And I made such an incredible ask. It was huge. I asked for 10 times more money than my predecessor did. And I got that. But after that, I joked my boss that I don't know how to use that money. And maybe, you know, my memory didn't work well. I was 8 months pregnant when the budget was happening. I just joked about it. And I said, you have to embrace that difference, that yes, there's so much hormone things happening. You go crazy, right? And it's such a beautiful thing that you are bringing life to world and you're still working, you know, you're going to work 9 months pregnant, for God's sake. So what if you forget something that's part of who you are, you know? Men don't get pregnant, so they don't forget things. I just think that, you know, embracing yourself, you know, being vocal in those meetings, go grab when somebody is offering you that chance, be audible about your goals that you have for yourself. These things are important. I mean, companies are on the right path, they would do it. But young women need to do a lot of that so that it really becomes a two-way street. And then we're going to see real difference.
Yeah, does anybody have anything to add, kind of any similar experiences or any personal stories they'd like to share regarding kind of maybe not speaking up or not feeling confident to take on a promotion or you know, anything that Amnah said? Anybody got anything to add?
I have to agree with being pregnant in the workplace. I mean, you're incredibly tired, you're incredibly hungry, everything's really awkward, you're not comfortable, but we get up, we went to work for the whole 9 months. And quite a few times it was, oh, it's because she's got baby brain, or are you tired? Do you need to sit down? No, I'm fine, I can cope. So I 100% are with you on that one.
Not to mention the number of times you have to go to the restroom.
Yeah. I'll even say, you know, obviously after pregnancy, so when you have young children, especially, so I have an 11-month-old now, and I remember when I came back to the workforce, how difficult it was to, you know, take those mom breaks that you need, and you know, having calendar breaks and not being able to, you know, work overtime and over the weekend as expected, you know, really forcing yourself to have that work-life balance became so key. And so having that kind of support system in place where your team understands that, you know, work isn't everything, right? And so that you have different life experiences that can help influence how you all work together, and that, you know, that diversity of thought, especially someone who is raising a family or not raising a family, you know, it's so important for, you know, innovation and creating solutions, and as some of you said, and impacting the bottom line. But I think it's really also important for us as women to have these intentional support systems, like I said before, especially for various departments, you know, that were traditionally male dominated, and then having those women role models. So for example, you know, being in technology, you know, development, so software development is still very much male dominated. So making sure that there's intentional outreach and creating something like, so for our company, you know, we've always been committed to having a diverse and inclusive workforce, but having a committee committed to, you know, supporting an environment where employees feel valued, that they can bring their authentic selves to work, their ideas, their backgrounds, their perspectives, and creating, you know, different focus areas like talent strategy. How are you going to address, you know, not just gender diversity, but diversity in general in your talent and recruiting strategy, and, you know, employee support channels. So if there are employees who want to have a support system for, you know, I am having some issues with confidence and speaking up and, you know, making an impact, and how can I get some coaching there, that there are leaders that are willing to provide that mentorship and support. So I think all of that wrapped in, you know, we still have a long way to go, but I think that being intentional with having those structures in place really matters.
Okay. If I have to add, it becomes a little different when you are your own boss and you are on your own. I mean, there was no maternity leave for me, honestly. I have a four-year-old, so kind of I had to join back or started working from the next day, and somehow it all happens together. So as everything is lull just before you get pregnant or and suddenly all your career takes off once you are pregnant or once you deliver. So suddenly there are promotions coming, suddenly there are business opportunities coming, and you are all over the place. It is weird, but this is what I have noticed. So so there had been a lot of opportunities coming exactly a month after I delivered. So sitting there had been times when I had, which has now become very natural, like working on a laptop and feeding my baby. So this was a part of everyday routine. Have attended a podcast, gone back, fed him, and again came back and finished the half of the podcast, asking for some kind of a time gap. So yes, that had been. As Amna said, men don't go through it; they would not understand. And then the raging hormones and the emotional part of it, the forgetfulness. There's so much together. So while Amna was mentioning it, I was going back to my days there, and it's like I feel if there would have been more. I guess we are advocates of it. If we are voicing it out, there would be more support for the next generation girls, and they would have more. I missed or I felt that there should have been more support in terms of working it out together in different ways. Eventually, it'll come, but yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just
Sorry, can I just jump on that? Actually,
Yeah.
there's something that I guess we also need to touch on, the guilt factor of when we go back to work and we leave our children, because as a woman, you know, you feel that your whole being is about being a mum, and you have that guilt for actually still wanting a career, and it's really difficult to get away from that. And I mean, my kids do activities every night, but my job doesn't stop. I'm sitting there on my phone, and you know, I don't see their dads doing that. You know, their job's done. It's over to the mum. And you know, unfortunately, I'm one of those unlucky people, I guess, where I have to juggle so many different balls at the same time. So thank you, iPhone, for being able to multitask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of going off the back of what everyone said here. I've got an interesting statistic which relates to you saying how you were on your laptop and obviously kind of juggling family life. It says here that 1 in 3 mothers considered leaving the workforce or downshifting their careers because of COVID-19. So obviously the way the pandemic hit, but I wonder now everyone's kind of used to working from home and that sort of lifestyle. I wonder if anybody had anything to share, kind of if it improved their family life and kind of being able to be in their house and actually kind of juggle that a lot easier, because it's no longer you having to go into the office and then you having to come home. So does anybody have anything to kind of share regarding how COVID may have actually had a good impact on your family life?
Maybe I can go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So I would say I do see a huge difference. In both my maternity leaves, I went back to work after 3 months. I don't remember seeing my daughter growing up that well as I saw my twin boys. My boys were delivered just before COVID. So I delivered them in December, and I think in Feb we went into lockdown. So, and I joined work in April. So I just saw them a lot more, and I have more memories with them than I had with my daughter, at least in the first 2 years of their life. That made me also think, and I know everybody is talking about hybrid workplace now, that a lot that I did pre-COVID was really not required. Like traveling 14 hours for a 2-day meeting, these video conferencing tools existed even then. It's not that they just emerged out of nowhere post-COVID, right? Getting on trains in the US for a 1-hour meeting, you take a 4-hour train journey, which means you're waking up at 5 a.m. You don't see your kids in the morning, then you come back, they're already in bed. You get an update from whatever daycare nanny that yes, how good the day was or bad. So I hope now when we go back to a new normal world, we don't forget these learnings. I think they're important for everyone, but I think they're more important for working moms, that a lot of travel that we used to do and a lot of face-to-face meetings that we used to do, some of them can actually be virtual. Not all, but some can be, especially I think the travel. The way I've traveled in my past lives was like crazy. I think it was just way too much. And now you think and look back that, of course, it's different. It was a level playing field, right? So everybody was virtual. Like there was no other option available. So that's why it worked. It was not like half people were in the room and you were virtual, you could not listen. Somebody's not close to the mic, somebody's going to the whiteboard, you can't, and all that things that comes in the hybrid world. So I just hope we remain in that hybrid world, and don't forget, there were good things that came out of this. There was a silver lining in this. And we keep those good things and move on and just not forget it.
Yes. Something like that. I was about to say, as Amnah said, yes, it's a lot of juggling, and especially with the toddler being at home and where he's not in a position to do online classes and daycares being closed. You have to. I felt last one, it was a real lot of juggling with a toddler and work, which is equally important and demanding. So I would always advocate for a hybrid option, more on an option where you could go out there and meet people and get and that connection too. So there had been times when I felt that mom guilt for sure. And a woman who had been on she was an international recruitment manager of one of the schools here, and she was on her retirement period, and she said, I have left, I have chose my career on priority, leaving my kids. So if whatever it is, never feel guilty about choosing your career over your kid. They get taken care of. They will eventually, trust me, because I am now 70 and my kid is 30. They go out and do their meetings and they forget their moms. So it's all a cycle. So never feel guilty over your career. So that kind of struck with me, like they will grow up, they will have, and we feel guilty. They don't understand. As long as you're giving them quality time, as long as the time that you're spending with them, even it's half an hour or 1 hour, and you are involved, it doesn't matter. So this was my learning over last 1.5 years here.
Yeah, I think that the time being able to work from home and work virtually has really helped me realize that I can be flexible with my schedule, and it's helped me with prioritization, and it always changes, right? But not having to commute an hour each way to work, just even those couple hours, that's extra time to, spend with your child and go to the park, or, even get house chores done, right? Because that doesn't end. And so, I think that I've been really fortunate to be able to work virtually, and, even when he's napping, for example, or when he goes to bed, if I don't get to finish something, I'll do, a little bit in the evening, and that's okay, because I know that I wear those hats, right? I'm balancing it and juggling it, just as you all said. So I am grateful for that opportunity to focus on that type of flexibility and figure out what works for me in my day-to-day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering if Stacy actually had anything to add, because we obviously worked from home, and we did for how many months was it? 10? I don't even know how many months it was now.
10 months, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, obviously, if you had anything to add about that, because we're back in the office now, which is kind of 3 days a week. So how was that shift for you?
Oh gosh, I can't lie. The first lockdown I quite liked. I thought, yay, we get to work from home. And then reality hit that actually you have to be the teacher and the mum and the worker. And I thought, oh, okay, this isn't great after 3 months. And then when the office reopened, I was like, oh, normality, other adults I can talk to on a daily basis. Then when the second lockdown hit, I actually quite struggled, because my children are a little bit older, so they need the time for me to sit with them to help them with their schoolwork. So we set out a calendar, and Glenn, our CEO, was completely fine with the hours that I worked. So I did an hour in the morning with my kids and an hour in the afternoon, and I just made that up during the day, and it worked okay. But I am really super glad we are a little bit back to normal. But I completely agree with the traveling, saving time on going to meetings, you know, it's a complete waste when we can do everything virtually. So yeah, I am really glad that I got to spend that time with my children, but also really glad that I can have some adult conversation 3 days a week in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. So I think that, I mean, everything that you guys have said is just it's just spot on. It's really refreshing to kind of hear and just discuss. I'm happy to kind of just wrap things up now. So just to kind of end things on a high note, I'd like to say that a little statistic here is that 79% of women entrepreneurs in the US feel more empowered now than they did 5 years ago. And 87% of global mid-market companies have at least one woman in a senior management role in 2020. So we were talking about how things are getting better, and they are, and I think we can only kind of hope and encourage and inspire and keep these conversations going. So we're seeing improvements in gender equality, and I think younger generations definitely have a role to play in kind of encouraging and pushing this. Obviously, we also encourage everyone to strive for their best and to go for these promotions and speak up in meetings, and, you know, don't be afraid. So I'd like to say thank you so much to all of our lovely guests today. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to everyone who will be listening. I hope we can kind of continue this conversation, you know, across social media, and just continue to talk about it within our workplace and pressure these kind of topics that we were talking about, and kind of inspire people to push for what they really deserve. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate it. It's been a really lovely conversation. So thank you.